Actually, this is a topic I wanted to talk about, which is how to set goals. I think you had something on your thing about
I wrote
setting
something
goals.
about that.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So I don't know what you wanted to do, but I had this idea of what is your approach to setting and hitting goals? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, well, let me go on a little rant here. So I've been doing this thing called intro. You know that intro thing? Like you just talk to people, and it's actually really fun. That's why I do it. I do it from Friday at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh, really?
Just 2 hours.
So if they just turned off the money, you do it because it's so fun?
No, I am doing it because it's fun and I get paid $2,000 an hour.
Obscene amounts of money.
Yeah, so both. It's fun money, envelope money. And I've been doing this, and a question that I ask people constantly, and they rarely have answers to, and they act like I'm like profound for asking this. I'm like, dude, this is like table stakes, which is, what does success look like in 5 years? Like specifically, like if this is a money thing, like how much money do you want? How much revenue? How many users? Whatever. And what I've learned, and then I've been working with some family members, and they're like, want to get their finances in order. And I'm like, all right, well, how much do you spend every month? How much do you want to spend every month? And then let's work back from how much income you think you need. And I think the vast majority of people, they don't write shit down. And so I did this one intro call with this guy, and I was like, hey, so here's this app that I used for a long time. It's called My Weekly Budget. You just, every time you spend a cent, just write it down and just do it for 4 weeks, and then just look back at how much you spend. And like, oh, I never thought about that. And he messaged me and he goes, I've been writing this down for like 2 weeks. I had no idea I was spending this and that and this. I've been saving thousands of dollars now that I know. And I do the same thing with weight loss. I say, I want to weigh this much weight. Therefore, I can only eat 2,100 calories, and I'm just going to write down whatever I eat. Just writing things down, both goals as well as like the things that you're doing, so you kind of like have an idea, is the easiest way to get to where you want to go without really changing a significant amount of your behavior. Have you ever noticed that?
I have noticed that, yes, and I do that. I think a lot of people think they do that, but let me go into a little more detail on some stuff I do that I think is maybe a little bit different. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple bullet points. Here is how I set goals so that I can actually hit them. And this is coming from some guy who is, frankly, pretty lazy. And, I'm not like you. Like, I'm not like, oh, I need to lose weight. I must have a 500 calorie deficit. Therefore, it is done. I will now track this thing. That always felt like too much work to me. But let me tell you what does work for me.
By the way, it's the exact opposite. It's less work to do it that way because then you don't think. You just do. You just do what you're supposed to do.
Classic thing that somebody who has discipline and willpower says. Like, oh, it's easier to just do it right the first time. Yeah, we know, bro. We know that that's true. We just don't live life that way. Like, it's okay. I speak from the procrastinator's perspective. All right, so here's some things that I do that do work for me. First is, and you tell me if you do this or not, I set picture goals or movie scene goals, not just written goals. So for example, sometimes it's hard for me to figure out, like, let's say it's a financial goal. Okay, how much money do I want and when? And then I kind of I'll pick a number. I'll be like, is that too high? Is that too low? And I got to make it real in some way. So sometimes what I'll do is, if it's a number goal, I'll do the math to add it up. I'll be like, okay, here's how I want to live. I want to spend this, and this. What does that actually come out to? And I'll go bottoms up to create the goal. Or I'll just simplify it. I'll be like, I don't know, numbers and logic is a little too hard to understand. I'll go on Zillow and I'll just find the picture of the house I want. I'll be like, this is my goal. And I can just look at that picture of that house, and it has a whole feeling and a whole set of assumptions that if I was living in that house, like, life is pretty good. That is my motivating goal. Like, I'm more motivated by a picture or a little movie scene in my head than I am by just this kind of written text that it requires my brain to do a bunch of work to try to make life out of this,
like a vision board
text.
Yeah, I do it.
Yeah, I guess I just described a vision board. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing.
Pinterest. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah. All right.
It's like an Uber, but
Sam
for kids.
1,
yeah,
Shaan
Uber.
0. Okay, let's keep going. Second thing I do, floor goals and ceiling goals. So I don't set one goal, I set a range. The floor goal that I'll set for any project is all right, at a minimum, this is the minimum that it would take for it to feel like a win. And so I just will write that down. I'll be like, all right, this is the minimum goal. And what was happening was, normally I was writing a goal, then I'd be kind of beat myself up, I'm not ambitious enough. So I need to set a more audacious goal. So I set a bigger goal. And then I would inevitably sort of under deliver on that. And now I'd have to basically I'd either be disappointed because I didn't reach my like super ambitious goal, but still clearly a good thing happened. Or I would have my super ambitious goal and secretly in my head, I'd have like my backup goal that like I wouldn't tell anybody because it wasn't so cool. But like I knew logically that was good. So then I just started writing it down. Here's the floor. Here's the ceiling. Ceiling is the F yeah. Like what would make me say F yeah, that really worked out. And so like, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example after this. But all right, the floor and the ceiling goal. That's the next one. Do you do anything like that? Like a range?
No, but that's a good idea. I just like put maybe I kind of do. I say, here's what I think will happen. But then I say, in the best case scenario, I think this might happen, but I'm not expecting that.
Right. That's how I started this podcast. I was like, the floor goal is if I just invite a bunch of cool guests on, well, I'll probably like, if I do one of these a week, 52 guests, let's say half of them are cool. Let's say half of those cool people become kind of like buddies or friends or, you know, we like each other. Cool. So I'll make like maybe 12, 15 new friends that are like kind of heavy hitters enough where I can invite them on a podcast. I was like, that's a win. That alone is a win. It's enough to like do this podcast for you know, once a week. And so that was my floor goal. My ceiling goal was, well, what if people actually listen to this? Wouldn't that be sweet if people would, you know, on their commutes and they would listen to this and you know, we'd have this big audience of people who like, listen, and trust us. That would be amazing, right? And
well,
so
I do
now,
it with, I use that methodology for risk taking. So I say, should I quit my job and start this company? Well, the worst case scenario is that it's going to take me 6 months to find a new job. Therefore, I'll have 6 months of savings lined up. And if I just so happen to build a successful company, that's gravy. That's awesome. But I just basically I'm taking the risk that I'm assuming that I'm going to find a new job and have 6 months of savings. Great. That's my baseline. I'm fine with that.